everybody, it's Dave here, and welcome to Two Old Bloggers as we gear up for one final game in this roller coaster 2025 season. Darren and I are diving deep into the drama that matters the most. One final game to decide if Brian Flores stays or if we're hunting his successor. One final game for Justin Jefferson to reach 1,000 yards and keep that consecutive streak rolling. One final game to see if J.J. McCarthy can silence doubters. For young defenders like Jay Ward to prove their future, and for surging Viking squad to cap a remarkable turnaround with a fifth straight win and finish above 500 with a 9-8 record against our most hated rival of rivals. One final game, but with huge implications for 2026. Stick with us because you won't want to miss a single moment of this season-ending breakdown. All next on Two Old Bloggers. Rock. Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. Hey, everybody, and I'm on the wrong screen. How about that? All right, here we go. Too evil to hope saying if we lose Flores, we should get Eberflus. No.
Two evils in a joking mood this morning.
Obviously, it's got to be. But it is what it is. How you doing, buddy?
Doing okay, Dave. Just trying to getting into the morning stage with the season. One game away from being over for the Vikings. Always a sad day. But we'll be here to talk about it this week and the rest of the off season too. So ready to get to it.
At least until we get to July. So we're all booked up with stuff to talk about. Anyways, let's start it off with theme one. And in theme one, we're going to talk about Brian Flores.
We are.
Which I'm sure is going to be a top topic du jour for the next week or so.
Yeah, or longer. But this has been we've talked about this the past 2-3 shows, Dave, maybe even before that. So not a new topic, but because it's become pretty much the dominant topic this week in Vikings land, I thought it was worth bringing up again, especially because Brian Flores addressed it this week in his Wednesday presser as well as Kevin O'Connell. So, and that topic, of course, is where is Brian Flores, our defensive coordinator, going to be in 2026? His contract expires, Dave, you're telling me, in mid-January, I think.
The 14th.
The 14th, so not very far away. And the whole question about where Flores is going to be in 2026 wasn't as big a topic when the Vikings were 4-8, and after they had just got shut out by Seattle. The season was looking pretty grim, although that 26-0 loss to Seattle was not the defense's fault. but still, when you're 4-8 and you're the coordinator on a 4-8 team that's going nowhere, usually other teams aren't interested in poaching you for a head coaching position or to hire you as their coordinator. But then after that, the Vikings, or should I say the Vikings defense, went on a 4-game heater. And now the Vikings are 8-8, and Brian Flores is getting has opened some eyes with the way his defense is played. You look at the last 4 games in particular. They shut out the Washington Commanders. Yes, it was the Commanders, but a shutout in the NFL doesn't happen very often. Then they go to Dallas on the road. Dallas has scored 31 points or more and 40 points a couple of times at home in their 7 home games this year. Flores' defense holds them to 26 points, and 7 of those points were really gift wrapped on that J.J. McCarthy tipped pass interception on the Vikings' first possession, and the fact that the special teams gave up a fake field goal on that Cowboys offensive drive as well. So really, I think they only gave up 19 to 21 points. They're not giving up. So there's that. Then the next game after that, they go to the Giants on the road. They make Jackson Dart, the promising Giants quarterback, look like a Pop Warner quarterback, and they only give up 6 points there. The team overall gave up 13, but again, 7 of those was on a strip sack return for a touchdown fumble on J.J. McCarthy. And then last week, Flores and his defense, they obliterated Detroit's Jared Goff and company, which has not happened very much to Jared Goff and the Lions offense in the past 3 or 4 seasons.
It was wonderful.
It was very wonderful. It was a beautiful sight to behold. So, those have been a pretty impressive 4-game run, and the Vikings defense had played very well several games leading up to that. So questions start getting, especially Vikings fans, we start asking about Flores' future. Are those performances getting his name out there more? Well, Kevin O'Connell this week got asked about it. He made it clear that he wants Brian Flores back as the defensive coordinator for as long as Flores will want to be our defensive coordinator. Brian Flores got asked about it this week as well. And actually, he brought it up in his presser before he got asked about it himself. And he said, hey, he pointed out that the football fit in Minnesota right now for him, it works. And he and his family love Minnesota. However, he did point out that his decision this offseason is going to have a business side to it. And that's partly money, but I think also the situation and how that situation helps him vault into a head coaching conversation in the future. So I think those are the 2 business sides of it. And he did not say that he wants to be back as the Vikings defensive coordinator in 2026, even though he loves Minnesota and his family does. And I wouldn't expect him to say that because he's an upcoming free agent. So even though last week I said that I expect that there's a good chance that Flores will be back as our defensive coordinator next year, because I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job, we do have to prepare for the possibility that he won't be our defensive coordinator in 2026, as scary as that sounds. So if that's the case, who might be some candidates that would take over for Brian Flores, and who might the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell look to replace him? Well, one option, of course, is that you promote somebody who's already in-house on your defensive staff. And actually, Flores in his Wednesday presser name dropped a couple of Vikings defensive assistants that he thinks should be defensive coordinators in the future. The 2 of those names he dropped were the Vikings pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach Daronte Jones and inside linebackers coach Mike Saravo. Now, if the Vikings did that, if Flores were to leave and the Vikings were to promote one of those guys as the defensive coordinator, I don't think that would excite Vikings fans. They know a little bit about these guys, but not a whole lot. And Jones is the only one of those who has ever been a defensive coordinator at any level in his coaching career. And that was 1 year at LSU in 2021. So there's some unknowns there as how they would handle being a coordinator. But there are some, I think, advantages to picking an in-house candidate like Jones and Saravo, Dave. The big one is that they have been been assistants under Flores for his 3 seasons here. So they know Flores' defensive scheme, his principle, how he runs things, how he runs practices. And, I'm sure they would take a lot of that and bring that to the table when they are the defensive coordinator. And it also means that there's probably not going to be a big change in the defensive system that the Vikings would run. So the players that are here aren't going to have to learn a new system. Saravo and Jones or whoever would be the in-house candidate also knows those players. They know what they did well in the Flores system and what they maybe didn't do well in the Flores system. So I think there's a lot of continuity there that would be advantages to having an in-house candidate. You just don't know. But they're just not Brian Flores either. And Brian Flores is kind of one of one as a defensive coordinator. So there'd be big questions about if the defense could be as effective under somebody like Jones or Saravo as it was under Flores. But it's an option. And those guys were mentioned by Flores as guys who could be coordinators in the future. If you don't go in-house route, well, Dave, the other logical route is that you look at some other NFL team to poach a coordinator or a defensive assistant that you really like. And you're probably looking at a team that currently runs a 3-4 base defense, even though Flores doesn't run the 3-4 base strictly a lot himself during games. But I think you'd be looking at that. And there's 14 teams I counted that run 3-4 right now in the NFL. So who might be some of those candidates from other teams? I think it might be tough to get a coordinator to move like in a lateral move from a top performing 3-4 defense right now just to go to Minnesota. But you probably could convince somebody working under that coordinator on a good defense to come to Minnesota. And a few names possibly. This is just guesswork by me, Dave, but some potential options would be, I was thinking Aubrey Pleasant, who is the assistant head coach and pass game coordinator under Chris Shula's defense in Los Angeles right now with the LA Rams. He's been with the Rams 7 years in 2 different stints. We know Kevin O'Connell has that Los Angeles Rams connection because he was the offensive coordinator in 2020 and 2021 there, although Pleasant was not working in Sean McVay's staff when Kevin O'Connell was there. But we know Kevin O'Connell and Sean McVay are good close friends. They're buddies. And anybody that is a defensive or is a coach on Sean McVay's staff right now, I think is somebody you are interested in because that team performs at a high level almost every year. And, Chris Shula's defense in the past couple of years in particular, they've impressed me with how aggressive they are and how they use their players and create a lot of pressure and put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. So Pleasant could be a guy, even though he has not been a coordinator during his coaching career at any level either, he could be a guy on a high-performing defense on a very good team who's not a coordinator currently that the Vikings could be interested in with the LA Rams connection and the fact that the Rams run a 3-4, and Pleasant has a lot of experience as an assistant coach at the NFL level, even though he did get fired from the Lions a few years ago as their pass game coordinator. But coaches get fired. Another guy, possibly, if you're looking at like a defensive assistant on a high-performing defense that runs a 3-4, looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. Vic Fangio is your defensive coordinator there. He's not going anywhere. But I thought, what about Jeremiah Washburn? He's their defensive end and outside linebacker coach for the Eagles. We know that the defensive ends and the outside linebackers on that defense they're the engine that generates their pass rush on that team for the most part. Washburn's an interesting guy too because he's had a long career in football and in the NFL. He started out as a scout at the NFL level, same as Flores. And he's also was an offensive line coordinator at the NFL level in a couple of spots, as well as being employed on the defensive side. So he's been both an assistant on the offensive side and defensive side, which I think is kind of a unique background for him. And I think the only thing that might be a little bit of not a great fit here is we know Fangio's defenses don't blitz a lot. They usually send 4. So for Washburn, if that's the kind of defense he likes to run too, he doesn't believe in blitzing. That's not what the Vikings have done the past 3 years under Flores, and it's not, I think, that's been part of their success is being that hyper-aggressive blitzing kind of defense. So maybe Washburn isn't a great fit, but he's a very experienced assistant who's been on a part of a very, very good defense the past couple of years, and somebody who might be ready for a coordinator role. Just somebody to keep in mind. A third guy, though, who has been a coordinator and I think might be of interest at the NFL level, he's been a coordinator in his defensive coaching career, is Jim Leonhard, who's with the Denver Broncos right now. He's their assistant head coach and their defensive pass game coordinator. And Leonhard, I believe, actually was considered as a candidate to be the Vikings defensive coordinator in 2022 when Ed Donatel got fired, and they were looking for somebody to replace him. At that point in time, he had just left the University of Wisconsin, where he'd been the defensive coordinator and a very successful one from 2017 to 2022. The Vikings Kevin O'Connell ended up getting Flores, and of course that was a great decision, but I think Leonhard was under consideration at that point, or his name was floated around. And if you look at how Denver's defense and how it's operated under Vance Joseph, Leonhard being a former coordinator, and the Denver defense, again, another team that likes to blitz a lot, very aggressive, been super successful with that type of defensive philosophy under Vance Joseph. I think Jim Leonhard being a defensive coordinator, coming from that background with the Broncos, I think he would, those kinds of philosophies and defensive system, there wouldn't be a big change there. I think he would be a very aggressive defensive coordinator and would build on Flores's blitzing ways and disguises and messing with people at the line of scrimmage. So he might be a guy who would be of interest to the Vikings if they had to turn to somebody from outside the organization to become the defensive coordinator. Another guy I was just thinking about this morning, another guy I'd be interested in actually, who is a current coordinator, is Jeff Ulbrich from the Atlanta Falcons. Now he is currently, we don't know what's going to happen with the Falcons coaching staff, but Raheem Morris might be on the chopping block, in which case probably that whole defensive staff would not be back with the Falcons next year. And if you look at the Falcons, yes, they've given up 389 points this year, which doesn't sound that great. But remember how the last few years they could not get at the quarterback at all? Well, right now, the Falcons under Ulbrich, who likes to blitz a lot and is very aggressive, they have 53 sacks right now at the NFL. That's second in the NFL, just behind the Broncos. So he has turned around that pass rush there. And again, he had a very good record with the New York Jets the previous 3 years as defensive coordinator, even though I think Saleh was calling the plays a lot of times while he was the head coach. But still, Ulbrich would be a guy. I think he's obviously shown at Atlanta and in New York that he's aggressive. He likes to blitz. That would, I think, be a nice transition for him if he got fired. He's had some success at the NFL level. He really did a number on J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings this year in that game in week 2. He's another guy I'd be interested in if we got to replace Flores as defensive coordinator. So those are kind of two options, in-house, NFL. But maybe another option would be if Kevin O'Connell really wants to think outside the box, perhaps he could look at the college level to see if there's some innovative college coaches who might be ready to make that jump to be a coordinator at the NFL. It doesn't happen a lot, Dave, these days. Most NFL coaches, particularly coordinators, are guys that are already in the league. They were either coordinators in the past or they are position coaches at the NFL level who move up. You don't see a lot of college guys make the jump from coordinator in college to coordinator at the NFL right away. But if they did do that, again, I'm throwing out some names here that I did just with a little bit of research and a little bit of Chat GPT as well, looking for like aggressive blitzing type of defensive coordinators. A couple of guys who might be of interest to the Vikings. University of Central Florida's got a guy named Alex Grinch who has actually coached at other big programs like Oklahoma and USC. He's known for having like a speed-based kind of defenses that are very fast, might be a little light, but have great range across the field. His concepts have been, from what I read, have been widely copied across the college level. He'd be somebody who he's considered very innovative, somebody that might be of interest to Kevin O'Connell, is looking for a different thinker, a guy who can, problem solver and can be really aggressive and use those kind of hybrid type players that Brian Flores likes to look for right now. Another guy is kind of at a similar mode is Zach Arnett. He's the defensive coordinator at San Diego State right now. He also was the head coach at Mississippi State in 2022, I believe. he's considered the developer of the 3-3-5 defense at the college level, and that uses a lot of creepers and a whole bunch of motion pre-snap and post-snap. Again, he likes to have those kind of hybrid safety linebacker guys. He uses them a lot. That sounds a lot like what Brian Flores has tried to use at a lot of times with the Vikings and even before that at the NFL level. And a final guy who currently isn't employed at the college level because Texas just let him go for some reason was Pete Kotkowski, I believe, is how his name is pronounced. And he's a guy that the Texas defense wasn't up to snuff this year, and that's why people think he got let go. But he built a successful defense there since 2021 when he got hired as a defensive coordinator. He's known as a guy that likes to use multiple fronts. He likes defensive flexibility, positional flexibility is very, his defensive game plans vary from week to week depending on who the opponent is and what kind of personnel they use. Again, that sounds a lot like what Brian Flores has done at Minnesota. I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of other names here, but those are just a few that I was throwing out and also just the idea of like, you don't have to look for a successor at the NFL level. The Vikings should cast a wide net and see if they can find a gem at the college level who could be revolutionary and innovative, just like Brian Flores has been at his NFL career. I want to see a defense, whoever is coordinated. Dave, I don't want the passive Ed Donatel approach. None of us do. I want somebody aggressive. I want somebody who forces the issue. I want somebody who puts a lot of heat on opposing quarterbacks. I think that's what is the most effective. Brian Flores was able to do that. Now let's hope that it doesn't come to this as well, that in a couple of weeks we're reading about Brian Flores signing an extension, getting a big pay raise, and that he's back as defensive coordinator at least in 2026. But again, with the way the Vikings defense has played lately, we know there's going to be some openings at the head coaching level. Maybe one of the NFL coaches breaks rank with this lawsuit business and hires Flores. We do have to be prepared for the possibility that Flores will not be back and somebody's going to have to replace him, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And from what I gather, money's not the issue.
Yeah.
It's something else. So we'll see.
Well,
I hate to lose him. We talked last week. You got to keep this guy. He's so good at what he does. And somebody, I said, do we really play? It may have been GMAC or somebody, a 3-4 anymore? Or do we play a 3-4? And technically, that's just what they call the base. No, we don't play it. We play a mixture of all sorts of stuff, but it's based on an odd man front. And no, we don't have a true zero technique nose guard, which you need for a traditional 3-4. But who knows if he stays? Does Harrison Smith stay? Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of stuff. You've got to be able to, as Northvia says, adapt. And that's something that Brian Flores has done. He's demonstrated it to great success. Even when the offense is floundering, the defense has kept us and won those games. So we need to keep him. Oh, well.
We do, but like you said, if money is not the issue, I think that the Vikings, the Wilfs, would understand the importance of Brian Flores because they've watched the games we have. Plus, Kevin O'Connell is telling them they need him back. So I'm sure that the ownership group's willing to pay Flores whatever his price is, as long as it's not more than what Kevin O'Connell is getting paid. But yeah, the other part of it, which I think is does coming back as defensive coordinator, does that make me, is this the best spot for me to is that the best platform for me to pump up my resume and make owners reconsider the blackballing that they've been doing to me because of my lawsuit? And it's been said by a few writers, but Dallas would be kind of an obvious. It's got its issues, but is there a bigger platform than the Dallas Cowboys if your defense is really, really good and takes them to the Super Bowl? Probably not.
Biggest fan base.
Yeah.
And especially if you live in Texas, they're on every weekend. It's
but if you take the Cowboys and make that defense pretty good with the offense that they have, I'm sure that they're competing for an NFC championship. And if you do that, with the Cowboys on national TV every week, and Collinsworth and Aikman and Brady talking about how great Brian Flores is, it just stands to reason that that's going to catch NFL owners' attention, and they'll be like, we got to have this guy as our head coach.
Mm-hmm. So,
The Vikings are not on national TV every week.
Vikings First and SKOL will cover whatever happens with Brian Flores. You can bet on that. So
Evil says trade McCarthy for Dak. Well, I don't think the Cowboys are doing that, but
now on the theme 2. This week in Vikings land.
Yes, going to deal with 3 topics this week, Dave. And the first one has to do with some good news. I don't always talk about good news on this show, but and this week
this is your good news segment for today.
That's a good news segment, yes. We got some good news about Kevin Williams, and that he's been named as, for the first time in 6 years of eligibility, he has been named as a finalist, one of 15 finalists for Canton, the Hall of Fame. And you were showing me the 15-member class of finalists, Dave, and at first I was like, oh, that's not a very tough crew, but then I looked at it and I had to reconsider because he's up against some tough ones. Drew Brees is in there, who's a shoe-in to get in. Terrell Suggs didn't get in last year in his first year eligibility, but I'd say he's a pretty good shot to make it. You got Luke Kuechly's in there. Eli Manning does not have a Hall of Fame career stats-wise, but he did win 2 Super Bowls, and he played really well in those Super Bowl runs. So I think he's going to get in. Maybe not this year, but eventually he will. There's Frank Gore is in there as well. Larry Fitzgerald, another guy who's I'm sure I think he's he's going to get in. He should get in for sure. So it's a pretty tough class that Williams is up against right now. The Hall of Fame bylaws that I read say that anywhere from 4 to 8 candidates can get in per year annually. And then when you add in the seniors candidates, it can be as high as a class of 9 that gets in each year. And there have been some years in recent past where you've had 7, 8 guys inducted into Canton on an annual basis, but there has been a bit of chatter lately that they to make this more exclusive, that they want to cut down on the number of finalists that get in. And last year, only 4 got in, including Jared Allen, one of Kevin Williams' teammates. So, but I think it is going to be it's a tough year for Williams to get in, but at least he's a finalist. That's good. And let's remember that Williams was no slouch in his career. He's got a Hall of Fame resume, Dave. He was an All-Pro 5 times, not a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro 5 times. He was named to the Pro Football Hall of Fame's All-Decade team for the 2000s. That's very impressive. Pro Football Reference's approximate value ranking, which is how they determine the worth of an NFL player over his career, is 129, which is excellent. That is also better than their approximate value for Steve McMichael, Joe Klecko, Bryant McKinney, and Cortez Kennedy, all defensive tackles, and all of them are now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame since 2012. And Kevin Williams' approximate value ranking for his career is better than those, and a lot better in Bryant's case and in Joe Klecko's case. Mm-hmm. So, the issue. So, Vikings fans, Dave, you and I, and everybody else who's watched this team for a long time, we watch the Vikings every week that we can. And so when Williams was here, which was from 2003 to 2000, 13, I believe. We saw Williams week in and week out. We knew how good he was and how important he was to the Vikings team. But the question with all Vikings players, I think, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, is exposure again. And with Williams, during his time with the Vikings were mostly a mediocre team. Let's put it, those are the facts. They only made the playoffs 4 times in his 11th season as a Viking. They only won 2 playoff games during his 11 seasons as a Viking, and they got to 1 NFC Championship game. So he didn't get to a Super Bowl even. And I think Super Bowls, when you're defensive lineman in particular, those kind of things matter. And so again, Vikings fans know how good and how dominant Kevin Williams was during his time, especially in his prime. But do the general public, do the people who are voting for the Hall of Fame, did they catch on to that while Williams was playing? That I'm not so sure about, which I think is why he might have a difficult time getting in this year, particularly with the class that we see in front of him right now. And it's a shame because he's got the goods career-wise as far as the type of player he was, and stats, whether you're looking at tackles, forced fumbles, interceptions, which defensive linemen don't get a lot, sacks, that sort of thing. He was considered one of the best of his decade. That should stand for something. But again, primetime exposure, Super Bowl rings, those things do get weighted heavily into this voting. So hoping for the best for Kevin, but I'm not expecting he will get in this time.
Let's hope.
Yeah,
that's all I can say. Let's hope.
That's all fans can do for sure.
All right. Now on to your next topic. Switching the mood from good news, which he sort of ended badly, thinking he's not going to make it in.
I got to stay on brand, Dave.
I know. To possibly some more good news.
Yeah, well, we were talking about the Vikings defense under Brian Flores in our first theme, and it's been, a strong defense this year. A little slow starting the year, but and some ups and downs here and there. But certainly the past 4 games, and even earlier than that, I would argue the past half of the season, they have been playing outstanding ball. So defense has been really good this year as expected, but it is a little old. We've got 5 starters right now who are 30 years of age or older. And then Blake Cashman, the guy we got pictured up there, he's 29, but he'll turn 30 in May. So he'll have reached the 30, that 30-year-old threshold that we don't like to see football players reach unless you're a quarterback. He'll have reached that when the 2026 season starts next year. And so, that amount of age on your defense, it just means that the Vikings need to start some young guys emerging and becoming key contributors to this defense, so the defense will remain strong.
Well,
yes, that would help. But you need some of those young guys to emerge and start becoming keystone players for a defense. So the defense that's strong now will be strong next year and in 2027 and in 2028 and et cetera, et cetera. We have seen Dallas Turner start to do that. We have seen Jalen Redmond definitely do that. Could another guy, though, young guy, be Jay Ward, the safety? When Josh Metellus got put on IR about 3 weeks ago and the season was ended, that gave Jay Ward an opportunity to make a statement, and that maybe he can be a key defensive player in the near future as well. And in the past 2 games, he's gotten that opportunity. In the Giants game, he had 44 defensive snaps. Last week against the Lions, he had 39. So those are defensive starter snap counts, Dave. And when you look at the overall play of Ward, the stats that during those 2 games don't jump off the page. I think he's got 11 total tackles, solo and combined. No passes defensed, no interceptions, no sacks, no tackles for a loss. But I think that he has not looked out of place on this defense. And in those 2 games, the Vikings have given up a grand total of 16 points, defensively. So he has been part of a defense that has just been knocking it out of the park the past 2 games in particular. And, I think that Ward also, he's going into his third year now. So he was always a bit of a developmental guy anyway, a 4th-round pick, third-day pick, late guy who'd been a corner that was turned into a safety at LSU. So he was still adjusting to that system. But you look at him, I think that he's a versatile kind of hybrid player that Brian Flores likes from his safeties. He's got coverage ability. We've seen him used on the outside as a corner this year in some games by Flores. He's an able and willing tackler and a strong tackler, even though he's only listed at under 190 pounds, 188 pounds. I don't know if that's his actual weight or if that was his high school weight, but you look at him on the field, he's not a big, bulky guy. Like Metellus is a lot thicker than he is, but he's a pretty good tackler and willing tackler.
Mm-hmm.
And Flores,
but he's not rail thin either.
No, not rail thin. But the way he throws his body around is it's something that you kind of wonder, hey, Jay, you should, you're not the biggest guy. You should maybe think of a different way of different play style maybe at times. Also, I think that he hasn't got a sack yet, but Flores likes to send him on blitzes, and I think he has good timing and anticipation on those blitzes. He is getting fooling teams when he gets sent on blitzes. He just hasn't closed on them yet. So again, he's got a varied skill set, and the Vikings, again, they need young talent to emerge, but with the cost of this roster, they also need young, cheap talent to emerge. Ward is going to be young and cheap next year still. What he has to cement is whether he can prove to the defensive assistants that he's good enough, as well as being young and cheap, to warrant a starting job in 2026, because the Vikings safety room is going to be a bit in flux. Harrison Smith, we don't know exactly if he's going to come back next year, but the chances seem pretty decent. It seems like I've been saying this for 3 seasons now, but it seems like there's a pretty good chance this could be it for Smith. In which case, you got to find a starter opposite of Josh Metellus next year. And Ward could be that guy. I think Theo Jackson has fallen down the depth chart a little bit. He's below Ward right now. So if Ward can be that guy, that's great. And tomorrow against the junior varsity Green Bay Packers, he will get one more opportunity to make that case, which I think he has been making a bit the past 2 weeks.
I agree with you. I've pleasantly been surprised with his taking over that position, and it's more the Metellus role he's taken.
Mm-hmm.
He can play all over the field. It's not just I'm the deep safety and this is all I can do sort of thing.
And I don't think that, from what I've seen from Ward the previous 2 years in preseason or whatever, I think that's the best use of his very skill set, is to be that joker, roamer, X factor like Metellus was used the previous 2 years, not so much this season. But I think that's the best use of his skills, and they've been using him that way.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens at defensive coordinator and how they plan to use the players that we have that are still under contract next year.
And that's a great point, Dave, because every coordinator, again, even if they bring in somebody who's kind of follows the kind of same defensive strategies and philosophies as Flores, they're not going to be running the defense exactly the same. And so they might have a different vision of what players they need than what Flores need. And then maybe some of the players that are on the Vikings defense next season aren't guys that fit into exactly what they like to do. And that could affect the role, how guys are used, like Jay Ward and everybody else on the defense too. Metellus, the corners, the linebackers, the defensive linemen. Yeah, it'll be interesting. But again, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Hopefully. All right. Now taking a turn for your typical. Going to talk about the quarterbacks.
Yes. I think this is kind of semi-hopeful segment.
That's not the way I interpreted it, but okay.
Well, yeah, we just talking about the quarterbacks. There couldn't be a show on here where we didn't talk about the quarterbacks a little bit, but I did want to.
It's the most important position in football.
It is, but we spent a lot of time, or I spent a lot of time this year complaining about the Vikings quarterbacks and the level of quarterback play we have gotten this year, which is submarined our playoff and championship hopes. Whether it's been JJ McCarthy, Carson Wentz, or Max Brosmer. I mean, there's been a few highs here and there, but for the most part, they have been awful. And and so with that, when you see the level of quarterback play the Vikings have got this year, it's been hard, especially for me, to not look at Seattle and Sam Darnold and look at how they've been doing and see them now. They're 13-3. They're leading the NFC West. They've got the number 1 seed currently, and if they beat the 49ers this weekend, they will
tonight
clinch the title and the number 1 seed. It's hard not to look at that and wonder what might have been. If roles are reversed, the Vikings bring back Darnold, and the Seahawks stick with Geno Smith or some other retread. Are the Vikings sitting in the position that the Seahawks are now, and vice versa? You do get to think about that. And I think even if that doesn't happen this week and the Seahawks lose to the 49ers, they're still going to have a very high seed in the NFC playoffs. And you won't be able to, well, I don't think you can't argue right now this season that Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings made the right decision by turning the keys to the starting quarterback to JJ McCarthy and not trying harder to bring Sam Darnold back. I don't think you can argue that. But long term,
could have been the right decision. The execution is all wrong.
Yeah, but that's where the long term, view gets into it, which is what I'm angling at here, Dave. Is that long term though? I think that you can certainly make the argument that the Vikings did make the right decision, and I say that because of the way Sam Darnold has played in the last 7 games of this season. Because the first 9 games, Darnold was cooking. He was an MVP, talked as an MVP candidate again. But in the past 7 games, it's been a much different story for Darnold in his play. And in the past 7 games, which started with the 4 interception performance against the Rams in Los Angeles, the past 7 games, Darnold has done this. He's thrown as many interceptions as touchdowns. His completion percentage has gone from 73%, which is lights out his first 9 games. It's now at, it was 71% his first 9 games. It's now at 63%, not quite as good the past 7. His quarterback rating has taken a big nosedive in the last 7 games compared to his first 9. Same thing with his QBR, taking a big nosedive. And expected points added per drop back, I got this from The Athletic this week. The past 7 games, it's been 0.09. That's 25th amongst qualifying quarterbacks in the NFL. The first 9 games, his EPA per drop back was a plus 0.25, which The Athletic said is MVP level. So basically, Darnold has been playing more like a bottom of the barrel quarterback the last 7 games than the MVP candidate he was in the 9 games. And he's been playing that bottom of the barrel play is how he played the last 2 games of his Vikings career, which is why the Vikings decided not to bring him back this year. I think it was a big reason because they felt that Darnold was that kind of guy. He couldn't give you a consistently high level of play, especially against the really good teams. So what I'm getting at here is that we know JJ McCarthy has not shown that he can be the guy this year, but he's also only 22 years old. He could certainly improve a vast amount in the next 12 to 24 months to show that he can be that guy and take the Vikings to NFC Championship games and Super Bowls and win them. Sam Darnold is much more a finished product, Dave. He's now, I think, 29 years old. He's got a long resume and a long NFL playing career. And I think what we're seeing from these past 7 games, coupled with how the season ended with the Vikings, is that Sam Darnold isn't that guy either, maybe. What I'm seeing right now from him, Seattle's still winning, but it's the defense that's propping up Darnold and the offense right now because they are elite, and they've been winning the main reason for why Seattle's winning these games. With the way Darnold's playing, if he doesn't turn things around, even if Seattle gets the number 1 seed and home field advantage, I don't think they're going to last long in the playoffs with the quarterback play they're getting from Darnold, which would lead me to believe that he can't be the guy either at this point in time, in which case the Vikings made the right decision moving on from him because, yeah, he can play at a certain level. He can get you wins, but can he get you deep into the playoffs and into the Super Bowl? That is the ultimate goal for Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings. And if Darnold can't get you there, you got to find somebody else who can.
That argument sounds familiar. Hopefully it'll be JJ, but we'll see. And I think it was, who was it? GMAC states, regardless of what you want to happen, do you think the Vikings will stick with McCarthy as an unquestioned starter next year?
No.
And I did the shoulder shrug. I don't know. It possibly not. It's,
yeah, Dave.
I think it's a coin flip at this point.
We don't know what Kevin O'Connell's thoughts are about how JJ McCarthy, what he thinks about JJ McCarthy's development this year. But I personally don't think the Vikings should make McCarthy the unquestioned starter going into 2026. There needs to be viable competition there. There needs to be somebody who they feel that if McCarthy either loses the job or he wins the job, but he gets injured again, that can come in there and play quality football and winning football, which they did not get this year from their backups for the most part. Mm-hmm. You just can't have that with the roster that they have right now.
And as far as McCarthy, I hope he gets a developmental coach in the offseason, that because the Vikings can't coach him during the offseason per se in his own time per the CBA. Mm-hmm. So he'll have to hire somebody. Hopefully it will be somebody that gets his footwork and his arm mechanics and everything else correct. And we go on from there. And then that developmental style of coach, if we lose McCown, they hire a developmental style coach versus what Tyler started calling the scheme lord style coaches, which KOC is one, versus developmental style coaches, which develop players. Mm-hmm. And he hopes we get that to offset what O'Connell's trying to do, that we don't have two scheme lords saying, hey, let's do this. And then the third one being the OC, let's run this route 2 yards longer and throw off all the timing. No. But anyways.
Well, he's got that quarterback coach from his hometown,
from his
Illinois,
high school and through college, yeah.
So but I don't know if he goes back to him each offseason and works with him.
Well, he has up to this point, from what I gather. But I think he's going to want to change just to get more O'Connell-like, what O'Connell's looking for.
Or I don't know if the Vikings would be on board with this, but if McCarthy says, I'm going back to my guy, he's my guy, I'm going to work with him in the offseason, the Vikings, I think, would then say, okay, well, let's talk to him, and here's what we want to see you work with him on and how we want it done. And so there's synergy there. Possibly,
but I have no idea.
Yeah. None of us do. And we won't know because the Vikings aren't going to tell us.
Nope. So we'll have to figure it out. So that's theme 2. What comes after theme 2?
Theme 3 with the Drewster. Roll the bass line, baby.
I was about to say, there's no music there. We'll get you some bass line.
You like bass line. You like bass line. Hello, everybody.
Hey there, Drew.
What's going on,
that
dudes?
Piss yellow helmet off our screen.
Yeah, I agree. Let's keep the winning helmet this week, and we're going to win this week, and I'll tell you why. First off, I got some early notes. I've been listening to you guys. Dave, making McCarthy, make him more O'Connell-like. Wasn't that the problem at the beginning of the season? Come on, David.
No, it's not.
If you wanted somebody more O'Connell-like, why didn't he draft somebody? Because he's not an O'Connell's pocket quarterback. So
right. No, well, I agree there. He's not when it comes to how he approaches the game, but when it comes to mechanics, to get the mechanics down so we don't have that as an issue is what I'm saying.
Get that McCown guy away from him. That's all I'm going to say. He's ruining it.
Hey, he's supposedly a hot topic to become an OC somewhere.
Well, good. Defensive coordinators, Darren, that was a fantastic segment. Maybe your best that you've had since I've been a guest on this show. I thought it was very informative.
Well, thanks.
And you mentioned the guy that I would like to see if Flores leaves, and that's Jim Leonhard. Jim Leonhard, I did like 3 draft write-ups, and when he was at Wisconsin, that guy is intense. Intensity, instinctual. I know I'm talking about player things, but that carries over to your coaching. Jimmy Leonhard is a fantastic football. He knows football, and he's very experienced with running defensive schemes and stuff. He would be my choice. But I want Flores to stay. So that's just a note that I wanted to say. You guys mentioned something about safety. Safety, I don't think we have the safety that's going to be a game changer to replace Harrison Smith. Smitty's not coming back. And I seriously think where the Vikings are drafting, which is probably what, David, 15, 18, 20?
Well, if we win, it moves us up to 18, I believe.
If a guy like Caleb Downs falls to you, even though I hate him from Ohio State, he's a great player. You might want to think about spending that pick on that guy because you want to keep that. Vikings have always been strong with safety with Harrison Smith there over the last 10 years. They're not that strong if you take him out of it. They're not. Metellus is a good player, but Metellus and Jay Ward, what they want to do with Jay Ward is kind of like the same guy. You need the Harrison Smith guy. And I think Caleb Downs would be that guy. Like I said, I have a lot of draft research to do. I start in February. I don't know the safety room. I know Kamari Ramsey from SC because I've watched him play a lot. He's a good safety, but those are probably the top 2 guys. But I would think about that, at least entertain the thought, Darren, for drafting a safety there. And Darnold, we're going to find out tonight what he's worth. Very well said, Darren, by you saying, what do you get out of Darnold? A bunch of regular season wins? We're going to find out if he's clutch enough because I don't know if he is or not. And tonight, he's playing 2 things. The Niners put up a lot of points. We all know that. They have one of the best offenses in the league. Watch that last game I saw, man, they're all over the place. But they have no pass
versus
rush.
Chicago.
They have the Niners, I think, with my eyes, I think the Niners look like they have the worst pass rush in football. So that being said, Darnold has no excuses. Are they last in sacks? Well, there you go. That
yes.
bolsters my opinion there. So really, Darnold has no. It's amazing what San Francisco's doing. They had all the injuries. They're last in sacks, but yet Shanahan's got them right there in the running. That's a good head coach. That's something that another head coach we all know should be taking notes from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a lot of problems over there in San Francisco, but somehow he gets them to rise to the end, and they're right in the running for the tournament. But they have no pass rush.
That
Darnold
other coach
has no
excuses.
Yeah, you know who I'm
that other
talking
coach
about.
may be looking to take one of their quarterbacks off San Francisco's hands too.
That's true. That's a whole other show that I'm sure 2 old bloggers is going to cover. But those are my side notes I have. Is Darnold clutch enough? My last side note was the one I was going to have at the end of my segment. The Vikings owe the home fans a win. You crap the bed against Atlanta, the Philly, Baltimore. You're behind, O'Connell. You owe these fans a win. And even though there's not a lot of juice in this game, you owe it to the fans. So get your shit together and get your team ready to play and get them prepared.
And all the people that took the over.
And all the people that took the over. I wouldn't know because I don't gamble. Remember? I don't gamble anymore.
8.5 games.
Oh, one more note. Vikings platform. Dallas platform is one of the top platforms in the league. Dave, you mentioned that. You should also mention below that platform is a big sea of hellish lava and razor blades because it can be a terrible place to coach football. because of the downfall from what you get when things don't work out there. So that's got to be said. Sure, it's a big platform, but there's also the other side of it. A place of not only sound, time with goes. Okay, here we go. Draft, safety, mentioned that. Game 17. That team from Wisconsin at Minnesota, Darren, they're at 9-6-1. They got the 7th seed. They're locked into the 7th seed, so they have no place for advancements, which means they're going to sit all their guys. Vikings are 8-8, one spot out behind that team from Wisconsin for a playoff spot. Good old Vikings.
A half game out, no less.
A half game out. And Darren mentioned earlier something about you always have pessimistic, mean things to say or something. I was in the green room and I'm listening to Darren say that, and I thought, Darren, what team do you represent? There you go. You have all the right in the world to be saying things that you're going to say. Vikings looking to finish with 5 straight wins, man. That would be very cool. And a 9-8 record. At least they would have a winning record. And even though players will be sitting, this game doesn't have a lot of juice. Like I said, it's still the hated team from Wisconsin. Not Lambeau. It's played at home this week. But we remember what they did to us at Lambeau. They knocked McCarthy around in that game. That was a disgrace. That was embarrassing, and they should be angry about that. And they should be angry at Clayton Tune. They should be angry at that guy. It's time for a little payback. That Lambeau game wasn't just a win. That was a humiliation. And if that means anything to players and coaches, they should come out and be going for it on 4th down with a 40-point lead. They need to strike back with the humiliation. If somebody punches you in the face, you punch back. And tomorrow's the day to do it. Also, my big storyline on this one, I'm very anxious to watch Clayton Tune have to deal with Brian Flores when he's angry. I didn't do any ranking, statistical stuff this week because it's a waste of time because everybody is sitting. I will say this, though. Out of the 131 times that these two teams have met, 131, Darren, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Only 7 times have they met in the final week of the regular season. And the last time that happened was 2015 when they met the last week of the season. And who won, Darren?
The Vikings won. I remember that game well.
Yes. Darren always has it. 20 to 13.
The X-Man with the game-clinching interception. At the end, Cordell Patterson has a kickoff return. Looks like he's assaulted away, and Crosby forces a fumble. It was unbelievable at the end.
And Patterson was laughing on the sidelines about it after he fumbled, and it got on my nerves, and I was going to kick the nuts off the side of his face. I was so angry. I also
remember that.
They're sitting that was a great game. They're sitting both their quarterbacks, 1 and 2. So Clayton Tune, like I said, will be starting. Josh Jacobs isn't playing. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs is sitting. McCarthy has a lot to prove in this game, and he will be starting. Let's take that out to the fans right now. He's going to be playing the last game, and I think that's important to him. I think it's important that he remembers how they kicked his nutsack in last game, and he comes out and wants to kick their ass. Like I said, cut him loose. You got to lead at the end. Go for it. Not only go for it on 4th down, run no huddle. Run no huddle when they're up by a big score. Run it, and kick them in the nuts. Let's go. You got to finish this season strong. Like I said, they owe it to the fans. I have one key this week, guys. David, I know you got a graphic for it. There's only one key that matters, and that's getting Justin Jefferson 53 yards receiving so he can extend his streak to 6 years. He has to finish the season with 1,000 yards. He's got to do it. Got to keep his streak going. Since Jets came into the NFL in 2020, he's had 5 consecutive seasons of at least 1,000 yards, including 1,809 in 2022 and 1,533 just last year. Oh my, how seasons have changed. He's hoping to catch Randy Moss, who has 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and to start a career. I'm going to personally fly to Minnesota and rip their staff a new beehole if they don't get it done. If the staff doesn't get it done, they got to answer to me and my Uncle Paulie. Get him the 53 yards, because if you don't, Drew's going to be angry, and you're not going to like me. Ask David when I'm angry. Let's do a little inside the numbers. These 1,000-yard seasons, Darren, I got a good info for you. I did a little research. looking at consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start your career. Like I said, Jefferson's going for 6. Moss had 6. The record, and when I saw this, I was going, my God, really? Mike Evans, 11 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. 11! That is impressive. 11! And it was broken this year. Naturally, he had the injuries. I think he only has 350, 340 yards receiving, so he won't be able to extend it. But if Jefferson's going for 6, the record's 11. He's not even halfway there yet. That is a great, great record. And it got me thinking, who has the most, 1,000-yard games or 1,000-yard seasons? To start a season, it's Evans. Jerry Rice has 14. Now, he didn't have, to start the season, he didn't have 11. But he has 14 total 1,000-yard seasons. Again, very impressive. But when I saw Mike Evans, man, that is a great, great stat to hang your hat on with the grandkids. I mean, it all points down to getting that 53 this week. I don't give a shit how you got it. I don't care how many passes it takes. I don't care if you got to throw it 80 times to the guy, whatever. Get him the yardage he needs to extend that. These streaks matter. The game might not have any juice in terms of placement and division. I mean, you got your rivalry. You got backups playing, but that streak should be the number one goal of the offense. Matter of fact, they should come out every play and just start throwing it to him to get the thing out of the way so we're beyond it. But it's important. And I usually don't do the team accolades over the individuals over the team, Darren. But in this case, I am. And they had something happen with Thielen a couple years ago. It was the same thing. Wasn't it?
I was going to mention that. I forget what year it was, but because you and I talked about it during the game, Drew. But I think he was like 20-some yards from getting 1,000. And the Vikings had the game. Yeah, it was under Zimmer. Zimmer wouldn't throw him the ball. I shouldn't say Zimmer, but I think that he was the head coach. He could easily mandate to his offensive coordinator, throw it to Thielen every time here over the next couple of drives. And they didn't even throw to him once, I think. And I was so steamed about it because, again, he didn't have very far to get to 2,000 yards, 1,000 yards, and just throw the guy a bone. You're winning the game.
And you're thinking of a season like this where they've had so much gloom in the gray cloud, David. The morale, you don't need to send the team into a bad morale spin the last week of the season. Because they talk. The players talk at barbecues over the summer. That son of a bitch O'Connell didn't get Jefferson his 53 yards. That stuff carries over. It does. Everybody's human that plays these games. So you got to get them that. So you got to get some high note stuff in there. There's been so much gloom.
Yeah, and as Northview says, we hope Harrison Smith gets his 40th interception.
Absolutely,
Clayton Tune.
Absolutely, Northview. You know what? Send me a message on Facebook. I'll get you a prize. That's a prize-worthy comment there.
I was just checking. Thielen, I looked at it. So it was 2016, the year that happened. He had 967 receiving yards, and that was 2016 was the year he emerged as like a legit wide receiver. Remember? And yeah, that would have been his first 1,000-yard season. And in the last game, Zimmer didn't get it done.
Was that so last game a home game? Is that a home game? Do you have that info? Was that a home game?
I believe so.
Thielen?
I'd have to check his game logs, but I'm just going to check here.
That would make it even worse. If it's a home game.
I think it was a home game, and we were playing like Carolina or something.
Yeah.
No, it was a home game. It was against the Bears, and we won 38-10.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
we can go ahead. Let's go ahead and get to the summary, guys, because I know you got some thoughts on this game, and I'd like to hear them. Vikings, during this current 4-game winning streak, this is a good number. They're only allowing 12.3 points a game. And I don't expect Clayton Tune, whatever his name is, Clayton Tune, to get much more than that. I have them getting about 12 to 14, probably mostly on field goals. And I don't care who the quarterback is for the Vikings. McCarthy's starting. If he gets his feelings hurt or whatever and he's out by the second quarter or he hurts his hamstring or something, I don't care who they insert in there. It's about JJ. Get him the football. Get him the 53 so I don't have to be angry. I don't have time to fly to Minnesota, kick people's asses. I don't have time to do that. There's plenty of people in Missouri's asses I got to kick. The Vikings they're going to try to avoid being swept by the team from Wisconsin for the first time since 2019, Darren. The Vikings have not been swept by them since 2019, which was good because there was a time there we were getting swept every year, somewhere down by Leslie Frazier time. They were kicking our ass twice a year. Didn't happen with Bud Grant. That would never happen with Bud Grant, but we don't want them to get the sweep. You don't want any team to get the sweep. Detroit, one of the things that's going to bother them this offseason is that we got the sweep on them. That's going to bug them all offseason. And if Dan Campbell's bugged by something, I'm happy. Vikings will win this game. They'll get to 5 straight. They will finish with a 9-8 record. We'll have everything's going to come out on good on the other side. I know that's not much to brag about in a game like this, but if you think back to when they were 4-8. When they were 4-8, I was watching the shows, the Score thing, Score South, or whatever it is, and the Purple Insider, Score North. Sorry, Purple Insider. There was people on. There were people on these shows saying when the Vikings were 4-8, Darren, they weren't going to win another game. I have a name written on my paper. I'm not going to mention it. It's not important. It's kind of worth a little brag though, to go from the Vikings aren't going to win another game to winning 5 of those games. So call it for what it's worth. I understand people are emotional, and that was a tough loss going to 4-8, but they've proven that they're not in the tank. And you covered all those games, Darren. They're NFL teams. NFL teams are all good. They all have good players. You got to have a plan. You got to have execution. You got to get it done. And the Vikings have not sat in the toilet and took a dump. They've been getting it done, and they're going to get it done again tomorrow.
Now,
Vikings. Hold on.
I didn't like about.
I'll kick it to you. Vikings 31-13 or 24-13, depending on the turnover ratio. I could see us, but when it's 31-13, I want to be going for it on 4th down. That grind them out, like Woody Hayes used to say with Michigan. Woody, why'd you go for 2 when you're up 40 on Michigan? Because I couldn't go for 3. That's the kind of mentality you gotta have. So I'll turn that back over to you. Get him the 53. Come on, get Justin Jefferson where he needs to go. Go ahead. Give me your thoughts on this game, guys.
Well, first off, on the winning the last 4 in a row, people say, wow, it's against bad defenses. Well, it happened to be that the Vikings did better against those bad defenses than any other team they played during the season. As in, when we beat the Giants, we did better than Dallas or Washington or all the other teams that played the Giants. It wasn't a fluke per se, just because their defenses weren't top 10 defenses. Now, would we like to have seen this team against top 10 defenses? Sure, we would have. But we only play the schedule that we were given.
Right.
And so I thought they did great. Now, do I want the offense to do better? Oh, yes, I do. But we'll see. Now, tomorrow, when we play this game, I agree with you, Drew. JJ needs to get Justin Jefferson his 1,000 yards. I don't care if he does it opening ball deep, whatever. I don't care. Mm-hmm. He needs to get him. That's an absolute must. Or even if we win, that's an absolute must.
Yep. You don't want these guys talking in the offseason. Everybody in that locker room, Darren and Dave, they know it. They know it heading out in the field. They all know it, so there's no excuse. Just like 2015, they all knew Thielen was close to 1,000 yards, and they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Don't make the mistake. Don't do it, because Jefferson needs to be happy about something when he hits the golf course. I mean, come on.
And watching KOC this week, that seems to be the plan, that he's talked about getting JJ his 1,000.
Well, I better see it. Or O'Connell's going to have me to deal with.
When JJ gets the 53 or gets to 1,000, the next play immediately, Ty Felton goes in for him, and he's sitting the rest of the game because I want him to get us 1,000 and not get injured. So that better be what happens. The other thing is that I think for JJ to get Justin Jefferson to get us that 53. I think it has to happen with JJ McCarthy in there, because if they take McCarthy out because of whatever and we go to Brosmer, I don't think it's getting done, because Brosmer can't complete a pass to anybody. For what I've seen in the two games. So they better get it done, and the earlier the better. But I'm with you. It would just be, that would be the second biggest disappointment to the season, other than the Vikings season being what it is if they can't get Justin Jefferson his 1,000-yard receiving yards. And that's all on the quarterbacks, because he should have his normal season if you had competent quarterback play.
Sure. And you're right about getting them out of there. I remember back in the late 70s, here Drew goes again with the stupid 70s. Atlanta had a running back. I think it was Gerald Riggs or Lionel Hampton. He was on the Falcons. I remember that. It was like 1977, 1978. And he had 999 yards. And the Falcons, since their existence, like 18 years in, they started when the Vikings didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher at all. So the guy got the 1,000 yards. 1,001, and then the next play he took a 4. They got a bunch of fanfare about it. Ran the next play and he had a 4-yard loss and he got hurt. So it went from 1,000, the fanfare, the confetti, to can't play anymore at 997. So he dipped back down below. So get him out of the game. If he gets over 1,000, you're right. That's a story I still haven't forgot it. 50 years ago? Falcons. If you look it up. Falcons guy who lost a 1,000-yard season. I'm sure it's a story, but you're right. Get him the yards and get him out of there. Ooh, there we have the injury report. David, tell us about that.
Well, for the Minnesota Vikings, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Miles Price, and Gavin Bartholomew are all officially out. Bartholomew, they did not raise him. He was in his 3-week window, the final 3 weeks. He did not make the final 53. And Dwight McGlothern is questionable. Brian O'Neill's going to be a full go, for those that are wondering. So we'll have at least, 3/5 of the offensive line. And supposedly it's 20 to 25 different offensive lineups this year for the Minnesota Vikings. Combination of players. And that's
that.
And
sounds about right.
The Packers, if this could be a preseason game, they would play third and fourth stringers. They can't, because they could, they have to suit up 43, and there's going to be some starters, but most of your starters are going to be out. And this is just the injury list for them to reflect that.
So there's the excuse for McCarthy. Let's get that out. All the McCarthy haters, that's going to be number one when he gets 3 touchdown passes. Well, look, it was against there's always something. There's always something with ESAT Nation where everything sucks.
I know. If that happens, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was about to say, one good thing about tomorrow is we're wearing the classics.
Yes.
Which is the uniform we should adopt, period. Should be our normal home game uniform.
Yes, they should. Every year, every week. Every year.
Well, I think that they're 1 and 2 in the classics, these classics so far. So,
well, they need to play like the classics, because I like to see some Alan Page type play tomorrow. Maybe a little Wally Hilgenberg or Jeff Seaman off the edge, and maybe a little Chuck Foreman out of the backfield. Let's go. If we're going to wear the classics, Dave, let's bring the classic.
Let's play like it, without a doubt. Right. Dominate.
Get it done. End the season the right way. Get them the 53. Get the fans the win they deserve, Darren. Do it. Go into the season the right way, not the gloomy cloud way. And I saw a comment earlier. I can't remember who made it. Too Evil to Hope made it, saying the Vikings will come out and take a dump because that's what they do. And how can I argue that? How can you argue that?
And he also said they'll come out and they'll win to get the higher draft pick and not make the playoffs. And they'll win, also, Too Evil forgot, to cement the third place schedule next year.
They're winning tomorrow. I stake my I don't really have a do I have a reputation? Okay, I don't apparently have a reputation, so I do, okay, but it's bad. Okay, so whatever. We're gonna win tomorrow, Darren. We're gonna win. How do you feel about it? You're gonna win, Darren? Darren's always positive.
Yeah, well, Clayton Tune is starting. Clayton Tune is starting for that team from Wisconsin. So you better believe it. I think the Vikings are going to win because Brian Flores is going to turn Clayton Tune into mush. The only way that the Clayton Tune beats us is he doesn't beat us because Emmanuel Wilson runs for 200 and some yards, which could happen because he ran pretty well in that first game in Lambeau. But that's.
If they come in there and beat us with backups and Clayton Tune, they got more humiliation leverage on their side. You cannot let that happen. You can't let it happen. Come on.
Nah, it should be an absolute one-sided affair tomorrow for the purple.
31-13. 31-13.
All right,
And
gentlemen, this has been a great show. Any last words, Drew?
SKOL Vikings, SKOL Vikings, SKOL Vikings, and get it done. Those are my last words. 53. No, let 53 be my last 2 words.
Gotcha. Darren?
Well, just want to do have one final word. It has to do with J.J. McCarthy, following up on what Drew said about how the McCarthy excusers. Okay, let's say he's not going to be playing against the Packers' true defense tomorrow, but I think it's still important that he has a good game because if he plays not very well against second stringers and third stringers, what does that say about J.J. McCarthy going into 2026?
Exactly.
Not very much. If he rips them a new asshole in this game, it's not the starting defense, but he's at least done what he's supposed to do, and I think that's a better way to go out the season than throwing 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. You get sacked 4 times, same old. That can't be what we see tomorrow from J.J. McCarthy. He has to. I want high performance, even if it's especially because it's not going to be against the full starting 11 on defense for the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing, really fast. I want to say that's very well said, Darren. I want to say thank you for having me on to do these previews on your guys' show. It's been an honor to be here every week doing these things. I love the research. I love your feedback. And not only my segment, I like listening to you guys' different themes and the Viking land and all that. You guys have a great show. Keep up the good work. But I want to say thank you for letting me be part of it. It's really cool.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Best free agent acquisition we had this year.
Yeah. And everybody in the comments, all the chat people, except for the one who made a comment about my mother. I don't like you very much.
Hopefully we don't lose Drew to the Cowboys podcast on Fans First Sports Network.
Yeah. Unless I start smoking meth, I don't think that's a problem. Vikings tie 2-2.
We say SKOL Vikings.
Go Vikings, baby.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!